What is up? My name is Dominic. I am one half of Death by Confetti. We are aspiring videographers and photographers here on YouTube. We mainly do travel and lifestyle vlog videos. So last year, me and Vanessa left on a 3-month road trip and decided to go all across the US, left in a van, and decided to vlog the entire process. We just finished releasing the videos from that trip. I'll leave a card here to the playlist if you want to check those out. But in this video, I wanted to talk about some of the beginner mistakes and some of the things we wish we knew in terms of shooting and editing our videos. These are 5 mistakes that we wish we knew about before going out onto this adventure. Mistake number 1, knowing your gear's limitations and going for optimal settings when shooting video. Alright, so obviously knowing your camera inside and out, that's obviously amazing and really helps out when you want to capture things in the moment as they happen. But the reality of it is, if you don't really know what your camera's strengths and weaknesses are, sometimes you'll be drawn to taking decisions, like I did, that aren't necessarily beneficial or kind of hurt the video production in the long run. So hear me out. I'm shooting on a Canon 6D, that's what we brought on this road trip with us, and I knew we wanted to shoot some slow motion video. So I shot everything in 60 frames per second, knowing that I could slow down any of the clips that I wanted. That being said, my camera's limitations are that in 60 frames per second, it only shoots in 720p. Now granted, most people wouldn't notice this by looking at my videos, but all of my footage from this trip was basically 720p footage that I upscaled to 1080p footage. So it looks alright, but when I compare it to 1080 footage, you can immediately tell when comparing the footage that it's a lot crispier, it's a lot cleaner, and a lot better for a bunch of different reasons. When editing my videos, I quickly began to realize that it was a lot easier for me to color grade and change the colors and bring the exposure up for footage that was 1080 versus the 720, as well as if I wanted to do any effects such as punch into the image, well now I'm cropping into a 720p image, so it's becoming even smaller than 720p, and that really starts to show. Had I known beforehand, I would have shot most of my footage in 24 frames per second in 1080p and would have selected those few places that I knew I wanted in slow motion and only shot those in 60 frames per second. This was just my reality, but this can be said about so many different settings and different gear, so really knowing what the optimal settings for each situation would be can really benefit in the end to up the value of your videos. Mistake number 2. So on this trip we were using this bad boy, which is a variable ND filter, and if you see what it does when I turn it, the way that everyone kind of explains it is these are kind of like sunglasses for your lenses, which is exactly that. I mean, essentially we were shooting in broad daylight, there was a lot of light coming in, so in order to have our footage not be completely blown out and too much light coming in, you put this in front of your lens and it darkens the image. That being said, these variable ND filters, if you turn them too much, they end up creating this blue haze that kind of goes all across the image. It starts off from the sides, and the more you turn it, it really takes over the entire image. This is the sort of thing that is really hard to get rid of in post, especially for video, and the only way to really get away from that is to double check your footage and make sure as you're going that this ND filter isn't turned all the way up. Perfect segue into mistake number 3. Double check your footage. Seriously, do it. Double check all your footage all the time. We were on a 3-month road trip because we were getting married. This is more of a vacation for us than anything else. We were taking everything in, but we were shooting a ton of footage. After a few weeks of shooting with the same camera, with the same lens, with the same setup, we kind of got used to how things worked. And you know, I knew that if I put the camera like this to vlog, it had to be at a certain focus point and it would be in focus. We didn't have to double check, we didn't have to worry too much about it, or so we thought. Near the end of the trip, I ended up looking back on some of the footage and realizing that the audio was missing. There was no audio at all. So when I realized this, I found out that the microphone cable was actually broken. I didn't know for how long, so going back through the footage, we actually lost an entire month of footage. No audio at all. I mean, I still have the images, but no audio on these video files. So, I mean, it was just the audio, so we were able to still do something with the video. We kind of voiced over it and added sound effects and stuff, but still, it wasn't ideal, and I really wish we had double-checked our footage as we were going to avoid this sort of thing. This can happen for so many different reasons. Maybe you didn't realize your lens was broken, maybe there's something right on the tip of your lens over here you didn't really notice, you just need to clean it off, but sometimes it can stay there for a really long time without you noticing unless you double-check your footage. So, double-check your footage, please. Please double check your footage. Mistake number 4, not stabilizing your footage enough. Now this again relates to the fact that we were up and about and run and gunning, but we really didn't take too much time to think about the shots that we were getting and really making sure that they were very stable. It's really easy to just take your camera and film whatever, but when you really take the time to think about the shot you want to do, the movement you want to do with your camera, it's a lot easier then to stabilize your footage and not have it shake as much. There are a bunch of techniques that people show through different YouTube videos, but even without that, I think that really just thinking about the particular shots that you want to get and making sure that you make a movement that's not too shaky to begin with is going to greatly heighten the production value of your video. I shot a bunch of footage that I ended up not using simply because it was too shaky, because I just took out the camera, shot it, didn't really think about it, and it was basically unusable when I was editing. There's quite a lot you can do in post-production, but sometimes it's just too much. There are also different cameras that have built-in image stabilization, and same goes for different lenses that have image stabilization built in as well. So if you're buying some new gear, particularly for these kinds of videos, maybe something to look into. And finally, mistake number 5. Now, this kind of goes more for YouTube, but I think can still apply for a lot of different kinds of videos in general. Creating a story, providing context, and giving the viewers a reason to keep watching your videos will almost always be beneficial to your videos. I'll be completely honest, when we set out on this journey, we really just shot anything and everything. We didn't really think about it, and we assumed that we could fix everything in post, put something together, and kind of create a story out of it. And that's the beauty of vlogging. I think it particularly works well because you're talking to a camera, and every time you do so, you're kind of providing a story, you're giving some feedback, you're telling people what you're doing next, you're giving context to these videos, and it makes it all more human and a lot more relatable. You can't just, I mean, you can, but you can't just shoot beautiful landscapes and beautiful images and stitch it together and make a 15-minute edit and expect people to watch your video without any context or story behind it. And I mean, while that can work, I really do think that adding any sort of storytelling or giving context or giving people a reason to keep watching your videos will always be beneficial to both you and the viewers that are watching. This is definitely one of the areas that I think we can improve on, and I can't wait to do some more travel videos to try and get better at that. Alright, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you got something out of this video. If you're still here, please give this video a big old thumbs up. Leave me a comment below, I'm curious. What are some of your beginner mistakes that you did when you started out doing video? And while you're there, if you're new, please consider subscribing. We post new videos every single week. Thank you guys so much. Till next time, peace.